I was cutting vegetables for dinner when Dad called. Background noise, my mother's laugh, the clink of glasses. They were at the country club. "We handled that beach property situation for you," he said. His voice had that particular brightness he used when announcing he'd solved a problem I didn't know I had. The taxes were piling up. $47,000 in arrears. We found a buyer, got $420,000. After we recoup the taxes and our facilitation fee, you'll get about $340,000. Wire transfer should hit your account in 3 business days. I set down the knife. "What beach property?" "That shack your aunt left you. The one in Montauk you never visit. Hasn't been maintained in 15 years. Roof's collapsing. Foundation shot. We're doing you a favor. You'd never have gotten this price if we'd waited." "When's the closing?" "Tomorrow. 2 p.m., already done." "Really?" "Buyer wired the funds this morning. Just signatures left." He paused. "You don't need to come. We have power of attorney from when you were hospitalized in 2019. Never revoked it. Legal reviewed everything." My mother's voice in the background. "Tell her we're taking $50,000 as a facilitation fee." "We earned it." I opened my laptop. Found the property file I kept in a folder labeled Aunt Caroline Estate. Opened the PDF dated March 15, 2008. Coastal Commission deed restriction. Federal wetland easement. Permanent conservation status. Property could never be sold, developed, or substantially modified without federal approval. A process that took minimum 18 months and required environmental impact statements. The property wasn't worth $420,000. As residential real estate, it was worth $420,000 to a developer who didn't know it couldn't be developed. "Dad," I said, "who's the buyer?" "Development Group C Properties LLC. They're planning a luxury renovation, tear down, and rebuild." Smart kids. They saw the potential. I looked at the document again. Any attempted sale without Coastal Commission approval was void ab initio. Void from the beginning, as if it never happened. What title company? Harbor Title. Why? Just curious. I was already typing the email. "Enjoy dinner." I attached the deed restriction, the federal easement documentation, the Coastal Commission permanent conservation designation, and the Environmental Protection Order. Sent it to Harbor Title's closing department, the Coastal Commission Enforcement Division, and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Subject line: RE 847 Dune Road, Montauk. Protected property, unauthorized sale attempt, closing scheduled 2 p.m. tomorrow. Body single sentence. This property cannot legally be sold or transferred without federal approval per attached permanent conservation easement established 2008. I went back to making dinner. The Coastal Commission called me at 8:47 a.m. "Miss Holder, this is Director Patricia Vance, New York Coastal Commission. We received your email regarding 847 Dune Road. We've reviewed the documentation. Can you is there a closing scheduled for today, 2 p.m. Harbor Title in Southampton?" My parents initiated the sale without my knowledge or consent. They're using an old power of attorney. Silence. "Then the federal wetland easement on this property is one of the strictest in the state. The sale cannot proceed. We're sending officers to the closing. Please be available by phone." "I'll be there in person." I said. I heard her pause. "That might be advisable. Your parents may not fully understand what they've attempted to do." I arrived at Harbor Title at 1:45 p.m. The parking lot was full. My parents' Mercedes, a Tesla with dealer plates, a black Escalade. Inside, the receptionist directed me to conference room B. Through the glass wall, I could see them. My parents at one end of the table, dressed like they were attending a charity gala. My mother wore her Air Hermes scarf. My father had his trial attorney posture, shoulders back, proprietary smile. Across from them, 3 people in expensive casual wear, C Properties. The developers who'd wired $420,000 for a property they'd never be allowed to touch. The title officer sat at the head papers spread in neat stacks. I opened the door. My mother looked up. "Sweetheart. We didn't think you'd come. We're just handling the paperwork." "This is my daughter," Dad told the developers. "She's the beneficial owner, though we're managing the transaction on her behalf. She works in marine biology. Very busy. Not much time for real estate matters. One of the developers, mid-40s Greenwich tan, extended his hand. Marcus Webb, Cape Properties. We're excited about this project. That location is incredible. We're planning a 7,000 square FT custom build, glass walls, geothermal, the works. I didn't shake his hand. I looked at the title officer. Has the deed been recorded? She blinked. Not yet. The door opened behind me. 2 women entered. Both wore New York State Coastal Commission jackets. Behind them, a man in a gray suit carrying a leather folder embossed with the Department of Environmental Conservation seal. The shorter woman spoke first. I'm Officer Linda Reyes, Coastal Commission. This is Officer Patricia Chin. This is Assistant Attorney General Mark Delroy, Environmental Crimes Division. She looked at the title officer. This closing cannot proceed. The room went silent. Marcus Webb stood. I'm sorry. What's happening? We wired the funds yesterday. Everything's been verified. Officer Reyes placed a document on the table. Federal wetland easement. Permanent conservation status. Coastal Commission deed restriction perpetual. Environmental protection order irrevocable. This property has been under permanent federal protection since 2008. She said it cannot be sold, developed, modified, or transferred without Coastal Commission approval. A process requiring 18 to 24 months full environmental impact assessments and federal review. Any sale attempted without this approval is void. My father's face had gone pale. That can't be right. We checked the title. It was clear. The Attorney General spoke. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. The conservation easement is a deed restriction, not a lien. It doesn't appear on standard title searches unless specifically examined. It's recorded with the Coastal Commission and the Department of Interior. He looked at my parents. Who initiated this sale? We did, my mother said. Her voice had a tremor. Our daughter inherited the property from her aunt. It's been abandoned for years. We were helping her. Does she have a power of attorney? Officer Chin asked from 2019. Dad said when she was hospitalized, never revoked. But, I'm here now, I said. All eyes turned to me. I revoke it verbally effective immediately. I'll file written revocation tomorrow. The Attorney General looked at me. You're the legal owner? Yes. Inherited from my Aunt Caroline Holder in 2008. The property came with all existing easements and restrictions which I accepted. I've maintained the property in accordance with the conservation requirements. Minimal impact, no structural changes, native vegetation restoration. Marcus Webb's voice rose. We paid $420,000 yesterday. The funds are already transferred. The funds will be returned. Officer Reyes said, This sale is void. It never legally occurred. They told us, Marcus turned to my parents. You said you had full authority to sell. You said the property was clear. We had plans drawn. We put down deposits with contractors. My father's lawyer voice activated. We acted in good faith. We believed. You didn't check the conservation status. The Attorney General interrupted. You didn't verify the easements. You initiated the sale of protected federal wetlands without required approvals. He opened his folder. That's a federal offense. Attempted illegal transfer of conservation-protected property. The penalties start at $50,000 per violation, and can include criminal charges. My mother's hand went to her throat. Criminal charges. Our office is investigating, he said. Whether we pursue charges depends on several factors. Intent, cooperation, whether any fraud was involved. He looked at my parents. Did you know about the conservation status? No, my father said quickly. We had no idea. I sent you the easement documents in 2009, I said. My voice was steady when Aunt Caroline's estate closed. You told me the property was worthless because of the restrictions. You said I should have disclaimed the inheritance. You called it Caroline's final burden. The silence felt thick. You knew, Officer Chin said. It wasn't a question. Marcus Webb was shaking his head. You knew the property couldn't be developed, and you sold it to us anyway. We forgot, my mother said desperately. It was years ago. You charged a $50,000 facilitation fee, I said. For facilitating a sale you knew was illegal. The Attorney General made a note. The title officer spoke quietly. The closing cannot proceed. I'm voiding all documents. Mr. Webb, your funds will be returned within 3 business days. I apologize for this situation. Marcus Webb looked at my parents. His voice was cold. You'll be hearing from our attorneys. We've lost deposits, architect fees, contractor commitments. We're pursuing fraud charges. He left. His colleagues followed. The Coastal Commission officers gathered their materials. Officer Ray is paused by my chair. Miss Holder will need to interview you formally. The property has been properly maintained. We reviewed the site photos. You've been a model conservation easement holder. This attempted sale, though. She glanced at my parents. This is serious. After they left, I sat alone at the table with my parents. My mother's mascara had smudged. My father stared at his hands. You tried to sell protected wetlands, I said. Federal conservation property. You knew it couldn't be sold. You took a $420,000 wire transfer from developers you knew could never build on that land. We needed, my father started. You needed money. I know the country club fees, the Manhattan apartment lease, the lifestyle you've maintained since you both retired early at 55. I pulled out my phone, opened the calculation I'd made last night. The property taxes you claimed were $47,000 in arrears. They're $8,200 annually. I've paid them on time every year since 2008, 15 years. $123,000 total. From my marine biology salary you mock at every family dinner. My mother's eyes widened. You lied to the buyers about the tax debt to justify the power of attorney use, I continued. You lied to them about the property status. You attempted to defraud them of $420,000. That's wire fraud. That's federal. We're your parents. My mother whispered. You tried to steal my property and commit fraud using my name. I stood. The Attorney General is investigating. The buyers are suing. The Coastal Commission is involved and I'm done. Done. My father's voice sharpened. What does that mean? It means the power of attorney is revoked. It means I'm instructing my attorney to pursue full restitution for any damages your attempted sale caused me. It means I'm testifying fully in any investigation or civil case. And it means I picked up my bag. It means I'm finished subsidizing your delusion that I'm too incompetent to manage my own life while I quietly hold together everything you tried to destroy. The ghost ledger. I wrote it that night. Not for them, for me. Emotional costs non-refundable. Years called impractical. Every family dinner where my marine biology career was nice, while my sister's marketing job was impressive. Cost, confidence, self-worth, professional pride. Property dismissed as burden. The beach house I restored. Planting native grasses, removing invasive species, stabilizing dunes called Caroline's rotting shack. Cost validation of 5 years conservation work. Emergency calls never reciprocated. They called when they needed money. Disguised as we're worried about your finances, I called once when hospitalized. They were in Aruba. Couldn't cut the trip short. Cost. Understanding of what family means. Achievements reframed as luck. My research published in Marine Ecology. Nice that they accepted it. My promotion to senior biologist. Good timing with the grant funding. My Wetland Restoration Award. Those environmental groups give awards to everyone. Cost, joy, and success. My illness weaponized. 2019. Hospitalization for pneumonia became permanent evidence of incompetence. Power of attorney given during fever became their permanent tool. My recovery never mentioned cost. Agency, autonomy, dignity. The tell my father's phrase at closing. She works in marine biology. Very busy. Not much time for real estate matters. Translation. Too stupid to understand property law. Reality. I understand conservation easements better than their entire legal team. The math, the emotional cost compounds. Every dismissal builds on the last until you accept their valuation, until you believe you're the rotting shack that needs their management. The bill payable in silence, distance, and the reclamation of truth. The balance finally zero. Internal reflection. The gambler's fallacy. I treated my parents like a slot machine. Every interaction I fed in a coin. My patience, my achievements, my quiet competence. I pulled the lever. I waited for the jackpot. validation, respect, acknowledgement that I wasn't the failure they needed me to be. Gamblers know the math is against them. They know the house always wins. But there's a cognitive trap called the gambler's fallacy, the belief that because something hasn't happened yet, it's due to happen soon. I've been feeding this machine for 37 years. Surely the jackpot is coming. Surely the next dinner will be different. Surely this time they'll hear about my research and ask questions, instead of changing the subject to my sister's kitchen renovation. Surely this accomplishment will be enough. But slot machines don't owe you wins. My parents don't owe me recognition. The machine is designed exactly as intended. The cruelty isn't a bug. It's the feature that keeps you feeding in coins. The origin moment, August 2008. Aunt Caroline's will reading. The attorney read to my niece Sarah Holder. I leave my beloved beach house at 847 Dune Road, along with all conservation easements and restrictions, knowing she will understand its true value. My mother laughed. Caroline always was impractical. That property is worthless. The restrictions make it unsellable. My father, you should disclaim it. The tax burden alone, but I'd visited that house every summer as a child. Aunt Caroline taught me to identify shorebirds. We planted beach roses together. She showed me how dune grasses hold the sand, how the wetlands filter the bay, how everything connected. She knew I was getting my graduate degree in marine ecology. She knew I'd understand that worthless and priceless aren't opposites. They're different value systems. I accepted the inheritance. My parents stopped speaking to me for 3 months. When they resumed, it was with a permanent edge of disappointment. I'd chosen wrong. I'd proven I didn't understand real value. And I spent 15 years trying to prove otherwise. The philosophy: I didn't punish them. I stopped subsidizing their cruelty. There's a difference. Punishment implies debt, justice, revenge. This isn't that. This is conservation, species preservation. I'm protecting something endangered myself by removing it from a hostile environment. They wanted my property, my money, my compliance. They needed me incompetent to justify their control. My success was their inconvenience. My protection of the wetlands was my failure to understand real value. So, they tried to sell the wetlands. And in doing so, they proved Aunt Caroline right about everything. The procedural cascade Phase 1 evidence collection morning after closing attempt. I called my attorney Rebecca Marsh at 9 a.m. I need to document everything. The federal investigation is opening. We spent 4 hours building the file. Property tax receipts $8,200 annually. Paid on time 2008 to 2023 equals $123,000 total. Power of attorney documentation. Dated March 2019. Specific to medical emergency. Never intended as permanent. Email chain from 2009. My parents acknowledging the conservation easement calling property worthless. Recommending I disclaim conservation work documentation. Native planting receipts. Dune stabilization permits. Coastal Commission compliance reports. Financial records. My salary versus their claimed facilitation fee. Rebecca reviewed everything. They committed fraud. They knew the property couldn't be sold. They collected $420,000 anyway. Will the buyers sue? Absolutely. And they'll win. Phase 2. Federal investigation timeline. Day 3. Attorney General's office called. They wanted my testimony. I spent 6 hours in their office walking through every document, every conversation, every lie. The assistant AG Mark Delroy took notes methodically. Your parents used false pretenses, the taxers' claim, to justify acting under power of attorney. They misrepresented the property status to the buyers. They collected money for a transaction they knew was void. What happens now? We investigate fully. Wire fraud, real estate fraud, potentially criminal conspiracy. The buyers lost deposits, planning costs, opportunity costs. Your parents' exposure is substantial. Day 8. CKP Properties filed civil suit. $840,000 in damages, double the sale price plus lost deposits and costs. Day 12. My parents' attorney called me. Would I consider providing testimony that they acted in good faith due to misunderstanding? I said no. Day 19. Coastal Commission completed their site inspection. Officer Ray is called. Your property is one of the best maintained conservation easements in the state. The wetland restoration you've done, the native grasses, the dune stabilization, it's textbook perfect. We're recommending you for the State Conservation Stewardship Award. I sat down. Thank you. Your parents tried to sell this to developers who would have destroyed it illegally. You stopped them. That matters. Phase 3, Discovery Phase. Week 4. Rebecca filed my counterclaim in the Escape Properties case. I wasn't a defendant. I was a victim, but I wanted documentation in the record. Week 6, depositions began. My parents' attorney tried to claim family miscommunication. The deposition transcripts showed otherwise. Attorney: when did you learn about the conservation easement? My father: 2009, I believe. Sarah's aunt's estate. Attorney: and you understood it meant the property couldn't be developed? My father: we understood there were restrictions. Attorney: you called it worthless in an email to your daughter, correct? Silence. Attorney: you wrote, and I quote, "The property is worthless because of the restrictions. You should disclaim it." My father: that was years ago. Attorney: but you remembered the restrictions well enough to know the property couldn't be sold. Yet, you sold it anyway. My mother broke during her deposition. Started crying. We needed the money. We thought Sarah would understand. We're her parents. Phase 4. Criminal Charges Decision. Week 10. The Attorney General's office made their decision. Mark Delroy called me personally. We're filing criminal charges: wire fraud, real estate fraud, elder financial abuse, elder abuse. They used a power of attorney obtained during your medical vulnerability that qualifies. Each count carries 5 to 10 years potential sentence. Will they go to trial? They'll plead. No one takes this to trial. They'll lose their attorney licenses, your father's anyway. Your mother doesn't practice, but she'll face penalties, and they'll make full restitution. I exhaled. How much restitution to Escape? $840,000 to you? Undetermined, but including your legal costs, property maintenance costs, and punitive damages. We're estimating $250,000. Phase 5, the plea agreement. Week 16, they pleaded guilty. I wasn't in the courtroom. Rebecca attended on my behalf. The terms: 18 months prison suspended to 3 years probation, $840,000 restitution to Escape Properties, $180,000 restitution to me, legal costs, tax payments, damages, 500 hours community service, prohibition from practicing law, my father. Permanent restraining order, my request. Rebecca called me from the courthouse steps. It's done. They're ruined financially. They'll have to sell the Manhattan apartment, probably the country club membership. Your father's law career is over and the property yours fully documented. Clean title. The Coastal Commission sent a letter for the record. Your conservation work is exemplary. The consequence cascade. Weeks 1 to 4. Financial collapse. My parents called 47 times. I didn't answer. My sister called on their behalf. They made a mistake. They're sorry. This is destroying them. They committed federal fraud, I said, using my name. They tried to steal protected wetlands and sell them to developers. They knew exactly what they were doing. They're our parents. They're criminals who used an outdated power of attorney to commit wire fraud. If you want to help them, hire them an attorney. I'm done. She didn't call again. Their Manhattan apartment went on the market. $3.20. $2 million asking price needed for restitution. The country club membership canceled. The Mercedes sold, replaced with a used Honda. My mother's social media went silent. The charity galas, the country club brunches, the carefully curated lifestyle gone. Months 2 to 4, social collapse. Their friends stopped calling. When people discovered they'd committed federal fraud, sold protected wetlands stolen from their own daughter, the invitations dried up. My father's law firm removed his name from the letterhead. 40 years of practice erased. My mother tried to explain at her book club. Someone posted the criminal case summary on the local Facebook group. He stopped going. My sister distanced herself publicly. Her Instagram bio changed from proud daughter of Robert and Catherine Holder to just her name. Month 6, the awards ceremony. The Coastal Commission held the ceremony at the Hampton Bay Marine Center. I wore the blue dress I'd bought for my thesis defense, the one my mother said was nice. While spending 40 minutes discussing my sister's new Chanel bag, Officer Reyes presented the State Conservation Stewardship Award. Sarah Holder has maintained one of the most pristine conservation easements in New York. Her wetland restoration work, dune stabilization efforts, and native species protection demonstrate the highest standards of environmental stewardship. She protected this property, not just legally, but ecologically. She understood its true value. The audience applauded. A reporter from the local paper interviewed me afterward. Your parents tried to sell this property illegally. How does that feel? They tried to sell something they didn't understand, I said. They saw a rotting shack. I saw a living ecosystem. They valued it at $420,000 for a tear down. I value it as irreplaceable. We had different definitions of worth. The article ran with the headline, Local Marine Biologist Saves Protected Wetlands from Family Fraud Scheme. My parents never acknowledged it. Month 9. The silence, no calls, no emails, no attempts at contact. The restraining order made it illegal, but I think even without it they'd have stayed away. I'd violated the fundamental rule. I'd stopped being smaller than them. I'd stopped feeding the slot machine. 6 months later, I'm sitting on the deck of the beach house. It's sunrise. The smell is salt and beach roses. The sound is plovers calling over the dunes. The tide's coming in. I can hear it in the rhythm of the waves against the wetland edge. I rebuilt the deck last month. Composite materials elevated to protect the dunes. Native plantings underneath cost $18,000. I paid cash from the restitution money. My savings account for the first time in my adult life has a comfortable buffer. The drain stopped. The $8,200 annual property taxes I'd paid while they called me incompetent. That money's been returned with damages. The legal costs covered. The years of quiet support acknowledged. I got a call from a documentary team last week. They're doing a series on conservation easements and land protection. They want to feature my property, my restoration work, my story. I said yes, not for revenge, for documentation, for other people who've been told their protected land is worthless, for other children of parents who value prestige over preservation. My phone buzzes. Text from Officer Reyes. Site inspection next month. Routine compliance check based on your track record should take 20 minutes. Would you like to lead a wetland restoration workshop for other easement holders? I would. The plovers circle overhead. The beach roses have spread along the dune line. Native, salt-tolerant, beautiful. The wetland grasses filter the bay water. Everything connects. And Caroline knew. She left me something worthless that taught me everything about value. My parents tried to sell it because they couldn't see past the rotting boards to the thriving ecosystem underneath. They thought I'd be devastated by their theft. Instead, they proved I'd been right to protect it. The account is closed. The balance is zero, and I am finally in the black. But more than that, I'm standing in something priceless they tried to sell for $420,000. And it was never about the money.